Yeah, good day, everyone. Um, Speaking to Marco from Dr. Smash. Welcome to our first lockdown training session. Um, Sorry for the short delay there. We are now ready to get going. Everyone is muted. Everyone's video is also off. Christine's going to run this. As you can see, we've got a share screen going so you can see her Dr. Smash. And I think over to you, Chris.
Right. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Just in the lockdown, you don't even know what time of the day it actually is. Right. Well, welcome anyway to Quotes to Job Cards, Return for Completions, Monitor, and Customer Care. Right. The first place I'm actually going to start is right at the beginning with your defaults. It's a very good place to start. Defaults. Right, we're going to go to quotes and job modules. Your defaults are the rules that your computer is actually playing by. So you must tell the computer what you want it to actually do. So the first thing that we're going to set up is our labor rates. Now these labor rates that actually come in here are for the man in the street. If he had to walk into your shop at this point in time, what labor rate would you actually be charging him? So if we change these now to 300, and you just go through all of them at the bottom here. Well, no, one too many noughts. Sorry, I really want to charge 3,000 to everybody, but right, your labor rates. You've also got your other things that you are allowed to actually charge for. Is that if you are in an outlying area, you're allowed to charge for railage, either a set amount of money, or you can have a percentage of your parts. You can put that in, so it comes up automatically. Your consumables is a percentage of your labor. You also have your small parts, which is a percentage of your parts. You also have polishing, which can either be a set amount. If you want it to be, because you know you're going to end up polishing the whole car, you're not only going to be polishing the one area, so you can actually do, it's going to be 750 Rand, and you can say polish is now a standard rate. So every time you quote, it will be 750 Rand. Or if you untick this and you now put in 100 Rand, as it was before, it's now saying it's going to be 100 Rand for every panel that you paint. So it's up to you as to how you want your polishing to actually come through. We also have waste disposal, which is at this point set at 1% of your paint value that you actually want. Right, this one here, standard handling, is the insurance companies. Some of the insurance companies are now buying the parts for you, and you can now charge them a handling fee, or it's a handling percentage, and it's normally not 25, it's normally like 8. It's normally about 8%. Right. The other things that you have are all your tick boxes as to whether you want your quota name to actually be able to be changed, whether you want to actually automatically, if you typed in the quantity, that it will change the parts price to actually double or whatever to your new quantities. So it's just different ways of actually being able to have a look at it. Right. We have got that we are going to be allowed to actually delete quotes. This one, I'll tell people, please do not actually have ticked, because it's very simple to actually delete a quote. And once that quote is gone, it's gone. So rather don't have it on, have it unticked. But if you do need to come in and delete a quote, come into the defaults, tick it, go delete it, and then come back and untick it. All right. It's the safest way of actually doing things. Right. You've got extra things like if you want your list of quotes to actually have the newest quote at the top and your old quotes at the bottom of the list. Otherwise, it automatically goes to your to the very bottom of the list. So it's up to you. That's what all of these defaults are actually all about. Right. One of the other things is your protocols. Your protocols can be for anybody. It doesn't have to be for insurance companies. It can be for Avis Rent-A-Car or any company that you have actually made an agreement with, where you can set up your labor rates with that particular company. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add on a whole new one. So I'll go to add a protocol. Right, I'm actually going to call this Avis Rent-A-Car. Right, and my paint rate, it's bought through the normal rates for you automatically, but you can now go in and change it to what you actually want it to be. For Avis, I've said I'm going to give them 250. Right, my mechanical is 250. Right, we go to our used parts, we want that to be 50%. OEM is 25, we're quite happy with that. Outside contracts, we want to mark up our outside contracts at 30%. Glass, we want at 50. Right, consumables, we want 1% for consumables, 1% for our small parts. What's the maximum we can claim for sundries? You can write in your own figure there. If you wanted to, if you've got your settlement discounts for every job that you do, you want a set settlement, you can put that in there. Right, discount applied after VAT. Is it to be before VAT or after VAT? And is it to be applied before or after excess? That's what those tick boxes are actually being done. Excess percentage, is it to be worked out before VAT or after VAT? Yeah, so you're literally just going through these scenarios and actually deciding what and how your protocol for Avis is actually going to be. So let's go, okay, save our record, and we have now added on Avis onto our system. Right. And if I go to my standard defaults, this standard defaults here is actually to do with our monitor. It's also to do with the scheduling of a car. Now, all of that I will be going through and explaining to you in more detail, but this is where the computer is now going to be getting the information about your scheduling of that car. When you quote 1 hour of panel beating, that's what I'm doing up at the top here. I quote 1 hour of panel beating. 40% of it is going to go to my panel beating department, and 60% is actually going to go to my filing. Of the 1 hour that I was allowed for strip and assemble, 30% of that 1 hour goes to stripping, and 70% will now go to assembly. Of your paint, in this particular case, they have put in 100% of that 1 hour goes to painting, and they have not given themselves any time for finishing. So generally, because you want your finishing to be your polishing and things like that, so let's just rather do 80/20. Right, of that 80%, for this last one, it is of this 80%, you are now breaking down that 80% between preparation and actually paint booth time. So your preparing of the vehicle is 78%, and your painting actually in the booth is only 22%, and those two make up your 80% here. Right. We have also got our scheduled time factors. Just because you have said it takes 1 hour, you have quoted 1 hour to actually do something, is how long does your workshop actually take to do that 1 hour's worth of work? That would be, at the moment, in this particular case, they have put it all down to 3. But for, let's just say for our paint shop, it actually takes them 2 hours to do that 1 hour's worth of work. Our stripping is an hour and a half, and our panel beaters are pretty good, and they're actually 1.2. That is actually up to you as to how you are doing it. So when you come to scheduling through the Dr. Smash system, this is where the computer is actually getting your hours from. You have quoted 1 hour, and it is now broken it up into what you had stipulated here. It is adding on extra time here, or if you said 0.8, it will be subtracting time from them. So you can now look at the way Dr. Smash schedules and decide from there as to whether you need more time or not, and this is where you would set it all up.
So essentially what Christine's saying here is this section here is integral to how the monitor works. So if you're finding that a lot of your jobs on the monitor are running behind time, or you never seem to run behind time, whichever way it is, you need to come look at these figures and decide, is it because I'm giving them too much time to do the job, I'm being too lenient and I'm not being efficient, or I'm not giving them enough time and I'm actually being unrealistic, and you can now make those adjustments. Or is it just that the guys aren't doing their work? They're not. They're going off for a 2-hour lunch break instead of a 1-hour lunch break, so everything's taking longer. This is where you come and you set those bits so it alerts you as the owner where their problems are, effectively. So you want to try set this as strict as possible without making your without giving yourself too much work. You want to be able to be alerted to jobs that should be running through the shop effectively, but you don't want to get every single job because you're being too strict. So you've got to get that happy balance, and this is where you set that. Sorry, Christine, carry on.
Right, yellow time is also part of your monitor. At the moment, it has been set for 1 hour. So the minute you are between 0 and 1 hour late, your face will turn yellow. If you're wanting to change it to say you've given yourself 2 hours before you say that it's now become urgent, you would actually just go in here and type in your 2 hours, and it will now say that only when it's 2 hours late must you now jump on your panel beater and actually start getting the work pushed through. So this is where your yellow time, but when we get to the monitor, you will see what I mean by all the red, yellow, and green times, but this is where the computer is getting the information from. Right, going back up to our quoting default, these are just the printing options that you actually want as to how you want them to be printed out. Sorry, I'm just going through them. These on your quotes, when you print out your quote, it automatically writes up these quote conditions, and you can come in and you can change these to what you want it to be. So you set your own quote conditions at the bottom of the quote. We also have in our quoting section a marketing area where how were these people actually referred to doctors to your panel shop. And these are the different options that you can actually put in. When we do a quote, I can show you where you can set those so that at the end of the month, you can actually now find out how many quotes actually came through because they were referred by a friend or whatever it was, so that you can see where if your marketing is actually working. Right. Right, then if we go through, I have done the protocols, standard defaults, our printing defaults. Right, so these ones here is when you're printing out your job cards, you can have panel beating and file shop separate on the job card if you want, or you can have them combined. So you can choose how you actually want it to come out. You can even have your job card print out exactly the same as a quote. It looks like a quote. It just does not have prices on it. So it can look like the quote, but it's just with no prices. Right. I have ticked manually schedule through the workshop when jobbing. It's because I want to tell the computer when my start date is and when my end date is for that particular job. Right. We can go through, you can set all your different departments. You can decide on your overview report, which is when we come to later, whether you want a note to come up or whether you want phone numbers to come up. That's all up to you. Also, when you print out, this is what comes up automatically when you print it out. So you can choose what information you want coming up automatically. A lot of people, because they're using the entire Dr. Smash package, don't always want the buying list. So we will untick those because we don't want them to actually come up. Right. Painting defaults this is where you would set your painting defaults. When we first came in, we set our labor rates, but we did not set our painting. So under our painting defaults, this is where we can now set it. There's two ways of using painting. You can either use your standard paint rate or you can have percentages. Right, most people use as a standard paint rate. The percentage rates don't get used very often anymore, but the facility is there on Dr. Smash if you require. You would go in, you would add in your different types of paint that you have. Let's go and edit our pill, right? You'd put in like standard 2K. You would put in what your white paint actually will cost you. And you would then add on your what your red paint actually is and what your blue paint actually is. Right, so if you wanted your red paint to actually cost you 2.8 and your blue to cost you 2.850 because it is more expensive than what white actually is, you can do so. You click on your OK and it will now put in your different colors. If you go to your show blue values and you show your red values, you will see at the top here as to what's actually happening. Now, also, it depends on how many panels you are painting as to what you want your values to actually be. To paint a small area, less than one panel, is more expensive than actually painting an entire side of the car, because you have to be absolutely perfect with that mixing of your colors. Right, whereas on that, if you're doing the whole one side, it's a little bit easier for actually blending and to get your colors 100%. So in this particular case, they have taken off the percentages But if I wanted, I can actually now say that if I'm doing less than one panel, I want to actually add on an extra 10%. And you see how it has now changed my rate up the top here. So if I choose one panel or less, I am now going to be charging 2,695 instead of your 2,450. These are where the figures are all coming through from on the Dr. Smash system. Right, at the bottom here, what is the main water base that you actually use? I mean, the main paint that you actually use. And in this case, water base is our main one, but Pearl is on our list so that when we do a quote, we can choose between which paint types there actually are. Right. Additional release lines is you have the facility of actually adding on extra lines actually onto your quote. These are normally to say that if the insurance company don't actually pay, that the customer acknowledges that they are responsible for the bill, and just allows them to actually sign on the actual quote to say that they have agreed to that. Right, force inputs. Throughout Dr. Smash, you can have where your staff members do not carry on unless they have actually put in specific information. And that's what we're calling our force inputs. You can force a chassis number. So you would tick that, and now they have to have a chassis number. To stop them from actually just scribbling in anything like TBA, to be advised, you can actually do a chassis check, a digit check, which means that 17 digits actually have to be in Dr. Smash for it to actually accept that a chassis number has been entered. So you can choose how you want to do it. We've also got our phone numbers, and we've got our phone digit check, which means that 10 digits have to actually be typed in. They can't just type in TBA to get around the system. So you can choose. We've also got here our marketing section where you can do your quote claim, quote type, or your referred. And if it is a company, you have to have the who is the attention of, so that you know at the company which person it was that actually came in and asked for it, right? So you have your different things coming through onto the system as well. Right, and so we've now basically gone through our quoting defaults.
Okay, so let's just put a quick pause in there. Is everyone still with us? Does anyone have any questions about the defaults before we run out of this section? Just drop a message in the chat if you have any questions. Okay, doesn't look like anyone has any questions that I can see. I'm just going to give them an extra little bit just to make sure they're not still typing. Chris, just check on your side because it is set to host only, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to see the message. So just double check that you're not getting anything.
Sorry, I cannot see chat. Right, no, all connected, all good. No, people seem to be.
Okay, everyone seems to be happy. Okay, now that's fine. Then shall we continue on to actually doing the quote?
Right, yes, no, that's exactly where I'm going now.
Okay, right. I know there is one person battling to connect, so we might just have an extra person coming in. We might just need to catch them up on the however far we get into quoting, but they are trying to still connect.
Okay, I'm actually going to start, before I go into a physical quote itself, I'm actually going to show you how to import an Autodex from PDF. Right, so the first thing that you would actually do is you would receive a PDF from the insurance company, or if you have Autodex yourself, you would actually be making a PDF. And what you'll need to do is actually save that PDF somewhere on your computer. So what we're now going to do is we go into quote utilities, Autodex utilities, and we want to make a quote from the PDF file. These are all my quotes that I have already saved in my Autodex folder. Now mine is actually set up to go into my Autodex folder, but you can go and change where to look for your Autodexes. You set it up for your shop as to where you want your Autodexes to actually be. Right, so I'm going to use this JT, this one here. Now, with Autodexes, it depends on the Autodex itself. There are different types of Autodexes out there. There is Autodex, there is names have just gone out of my mind now. Ubuntu and things like that. So sometimes when you look at the PDF, you're not 100% sure as to whether it's an Autodex or a Ubuntu because they all look fairly similar, but in the background they are not. So sometimes when you go through, you actually have to choose one of these four as to which one the Autodex actually is. So if you get a blank one that comes up, come in and reset it, but change it to a new format so that it can reread it if you need to. But 90% of the time, it is actually this one, to customize their Ubuntu. That is generally the one that reads the majority of the PDFs that are actually out there at this point in time. Right, so I'm going to select the file. Say begin my import. So it now comes up, it tells me who the customer is and it gives me the vehicle details. So I start typing in my vehicle details. Right, this person has actually been in before, so I can use my selected vehicle. Right, so at the moment it is busy going through, it's making an empty quote for us.
Okay, obviously, while we just wait for this, Christine just selected a vehicle off the list because it was already on her list. But in the case that it's not, very simply, the normal format you would normally do, just add a vehicle on, you select your manufacturer, your model, fill in all your information for that vehicle itself, attach it to a customer. If the customer is not there, obviously just add the customer on and select it as normal. So the same process as you already currently doing with your quoting and how you working through already. If anyone has a problem with that section, just shout and we can show you that section as well if need be.
When I do the quoting just now, I will be going through that section.
Okay, perfect, yeah. So then, yeah, let's just carry on running through that.
Right, no instructing company. I'm just going to say no. Right, so my Autodex has now been imported. Look under new quotes. So I close it down. Right, so jobs and quotes, make view print quotes. Right, mine has been told to go to the end of the list. Right, so there it is there. That's the one that I've just imported. If I double click on it, there's my quote coming up. Right. So everything is now there. The quote is actually all there. Obviously, you will check your prices to make sure that everything is there. Occasionally, it misses off either your consumables or your polishing, to just double check that those figures are actually in it, or it might miss off your rust-proof and tactile or something like that. So
It's
just
generally your sundry charges. If it's going to miss something, it'll be your sundry charges. So it's normally right near the bottom of the PDF that you get from Autodex, just before the totals. It's generally where they keep it on the PDF. And if it's going to miss anything, it's only in that section that it generally misses. Your parts and things like that are generally perfect. So if you just check your totals, you'll see that it's normally your spares total matches, your labored matches, your painting matches. So it's generally just the sundry section at the bottom of the PDF that you have to watch out for.
right. So we have now imported our Autodex, and we can carry on with our Autodex as per normal. Right. So I'm just going to save this. Okay. Right. Okay. So we're now wanting to actually do some quoting on our system. So we can go to our add a new quote. There is our add new quote button here. Or the other button that we can use, which takes us to exactly the same place, is this pen here, which is a shortcut to your quotes. If you click on that, it takes you to the same place as where your add a new quote takes you. So that you can, you've got two different ways of actually getting in. Right. On this system here, on this page, if you go a little further along the bottom here, you will see that you've got additional columns that actually come up, like your VIN number and things like that. If you're wanting to do searches and looking for something in particular, you can click on, if you're looking for a particular VIN number, click on the header VIN number. It should come up with a plus sign next to it. And now, without clicking anywhere else, you start typing in your VIN number that you want. All right. I typed in TH, so it shows you on the side here what you have started to type, but you don't click in there and start typing, you just start typing. Right. If I now wanting to look at a registration number, I click on registration number. It now puts it into registration number order, and I start typing in my car that I'm looking for, and it will now find it on that list. And you can see what I have typed in by looking on the side here. Right. And so that is how you can look up information actually on the system. Now, add a new quote. We start typing in the registration number, 6677. As we're going through, the computer is looking to see whether that particular car has ever been in your shop before. If it had been in your shop, it would have actually have come up onto this list. Like if I take out 177, those are all the ones that I've had in my car before. I can just highlight and say use the selected vehicle instead. But because I'm wanting to show you how to add on, I'm going to do ND 6677. It's never been in before, so I now go to add a new vehicle. Right. What is it? It's a Honda. So the first place that the computer actually is, I haven't clicked anywhere yet. I'm just pointing it out to you, is if I just type in an H on my keyboard, it goes straight to all the H's, so I can find my Honda. I now click on Honda, and now to tell the computer that I have finished looking for my manufacturer, I click anywhere in this model box. So if I click there, and I now type in Bollard, BA, it now looks up for a Honda Bollard. Right. If your particular model is not on this list, that is where you have your add button. But please be careful when you're doing your add button, because you can see on this particular data, somebody has added in 2 Hyundais. So now your data is actually being corrupted, because when you're now wanting to look up information for Hyundai, you've got 2 Hyundais and you're now going to have 2 separate reports for it. So that is, so please try not to actually go and do your ads unless you really, there is a new model or a new manufacturer that has actually just arrived in South Africa. Or I see we have somebody from Zim, so arrived in Africa. Right. Okay, so our paint type, because our defaults were set, it automatically goes to water base. Your color comes up automatically as unknown, but we saw that by using our different colors, it now knows what paint rate to actually apply. So that is why your colors are actually quite important. Our chassis number, we have to type in a chassis number of 17 digits because it's now doing a chassis check. If we don't know the chassis number, that's what this drop box actually is. And you choose one of these, and that is how you get around the system. If you need, if your staff do need to, but they need to be able to say why they could not actually get a VIN number. All right. We have 4 user-defined fields here. These are extra fields for you. You choose what you want them to be. Most people use user-defined 1. Let's go in and just change it so we can say edit. We don't want it to say user-defined 1. We want it to say SAP number. Click on your OK. Or if it's like an Avis rent-a-car, it might be a fleet number or something like that. You can actually now choose, and it now comes up with your SAP number, and you can put in the SAP number of that particular vehicle if you need to. Right, speedo, engine number, all of that is pretty self-explanatory as to what it all means. Right, your registration year, I can just type in 15 and the computer automatically knows that it's 2015. The only time I need to write in all 4 digits, because if I write in 98, it comes up as 1998. Only time I have to write in all 4 digits is if it is the year 2000. Right, because if I type in 00, it's not sure whether it's 2000 or 1900. So you have to tell it which one to actually choose. Right, so, okay, save the record. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right. It now comes up and wants to know who owns this vehicle. The very first one that it always automatically defaults to, and the data in here is actually very bad because it should not have Barry's name actually in it at all, is unknown. Unknown is a customer that we put into the system automatically in Dr. Smash, so that if ever a customer is chosen as unknown throughout the quoting, right up until invoicing stage, when you do know the customer's details, you can go in and actually reselect it. And that's one and only time that you can go in and reselect the customer is if you have used the unknown facility, which Dr. Smash automatically defaults to. But we wanting to look to see whether Borman is actually in the system, and I have a feeling I am. Right, yes, I am actually in the system, but I'm going to choose that I'm not actually on the system, so I'm going to go in and add a new customer. But as I am on the system, I can highlight myself and say, select the record. But for our purposes, we're going to go in and add a new customer. All right, so we're still going to be a Borman. We're now going to do Mark, and we type in a number, his telephone number. Right, a lot of people get confused here. They think the cell phone number must go in there. That's not what this actually means. Is the first one here is your telephone number, and then this is a description as to what it actually is. So it's this is Mark's number. If it was his wife's number, you would type in the wife's number, and on the side you would write in wife, Mary, or whatever it is that you want. So you are describing in this column what this number is actually all about. Right. Email address, all self-explanatory. Your addresses, that's all self-explanatory. Your road address normally comes up on the quote, and your postal address comes up onto the invoice. Right, customer note, blank screen for you to write in whatever you want. But if you wanted to, we have got other fields here that you can use. Things like your ID number. If you're wanting to set this as an ID number, we go to set user labels, edit the record, ID, whoops, ID number, click on OK. Right, so now that comes up with an ID number, and you can put in the ID number that you actually want. Right, these numbers down here can be used in reports and things. This information here cannot. Right, customer data information. A normal customer that comes into your shop is you're not going to give them an account because they actually are supposed to pay their bill upfront when they collect their car. So normally this does not actually come into play at all, but there are some times where if it was a company and they do pay their bill as they come and fetch it, but you are wanting to keep track as to how much they've actually spent with you or anything like that. You're wanting to keep their account separate from the cash sales so that you can actually do investigations actually into it. You can approve them to actually have an account with the company, but you can keep them as a cash customer if you want, where they pay for it actually on the spot. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you're making them into an account holder that you're giving them 30 days. Right. Then you can put in their VAT number if they actually had a VAT number. And we have a facility where we can export out of Dr. Smash and into Pastel. And if that is the case, then you need to know in Pastel what is their account number actually in Pastel. So that is what your data information is actually all about.
And obviously what you can see on that screen as well, sorry Chris, if you just go back up to that customer data info, you can also set your user rights here. So if you don't want someone to be able to approve them for an account without a manager's permission, those sections will be grayed out if you haven't given them the rights to be able to do so. So they might be able to apply for a customer to have an account, and then your accounts lady comes in and says, yes, actually, this customer is okay to have an account, we work with them enough, and then they can approve it. So that allows it then to go through the stages, and only the people with accreditation to do that job can do that job.
All right. Okay, so taken us a while to get this far, so let's hurry up. Okay, save the record. We have now added on Mark Foreman actually onto our system. He has gone against car number ND6677, and we now say use your selected vehicle. Right, with the writing up of a quote, there are 3 ways of actually writing up a quote. You can type yourself as to what you actually want, you can use codes, or you can use the red and green car. Now, if I type a code and I do like B for bonnet, it automatically will come up with our paintwork and our strip and assemble, because that is what I've asked my defaults to actually do for me. If I typed in the word left front fender, nothing comes up against it, because the computer does not know what you have typed. But if I typed in left front fender, LFF, which is the code for left front fender, and I press enter, it now comes up with my paintwork and my strip and assemble, because it knows what a left front fender actually is. Right. So it's actually quite important, especially if you're going to use this optimize button. Optimize button reads your quote. Now, if you are typing in your own words, Dr. Smash cannot read your quote. But if you're using the codes or this green and red car, which I will show you just now, it now can read your quote, and it will go through and do things. Now, the example that I like to use is our front grille. If we type in the front grille, it will come up and it will say, just using figures, it will give me half an hour strip and assemble. If I click on the optimize button, it reads the quote and says, right, to get to the front grille, you've first got to actually remove the bumper, the headlights, the bonnet, and I'm not a panel-beater, so I have no idea, but you need certain things to be removed to get to that front grille. So it reads the quote and it now says, have you removed any of those parts? If you have not removed them, it will then increase your strip and assemble to, let's say, 1.5 hours. So that it's now reading and optimizing your quote to the best of its ability, so that it knows that if you just click on the optimize button and left the figures as is, you will get away with this quote. You will not lose money on it, or you shouldn't lose money on it. But you, as an experienced quoter, can now go in and do the changes that you want on this particular quote. Right, so that's what our optimize button is actually all about. If I go to my red and green car, because you're probably all asking, how do I know my codes? Well, you'll see there's my left front fender, LFF. If I click on left front door, here are all the parts to my left front door. And I can now double click. When I double click, please look at the bottom here as I double click. You will see, okay, very slightly it came up and it said dropped. And you'll see there's an extra line now on our actual quote. So I can now go through, I can change my method. I'm now going to repair the door lock, and I double click on the door lock. I want to go to my bonnet. I want a new part for our bonnet, and I'm going to do the catch pin, catch assembly. I double click on it. I'm going to do outside contracts. I can go to my OSC, now pulls up all of my outside contracts, and I want my front wheel alignment, and it's all coming up and it's dropping it onto the line at the back. Right, so, but where does it pull through all of this information? Now let's go into, let's start on the front wheel alignment. If I go to my edit, right, that's my code. That's the wording I want written up on the actual quote itself, and it comes up under the group OSC, written up at the bottom here. My standard price, I want it to always come up that front wheel alignment is going to be 360, and I now click on OK. So now if I double click on front wheel alignment, there it comes up with my price of 360 because that is what I've put into the system. Let's go back to our left front fender, right, and edit this one. Right, with our left front fender, we have two columns. If you are replacing the part, and then if you are repairing the part, what would your rates actually be? For your strip and assemble, to replace it, you're doing 1.5 hours, but for repairing, you're only giving yourself 1 hour. Obviously, panel beating is very difficult to actually do because it doesn't know the size of the dent, but you can put in if you wanted to. Mechanical cut and weld hours if you want, and then how much is it to actually be able to paint that part. You can now put in those codes for you. So Dr. Smash has set this all up with an average of 5 shops. We have taken from big shops to small shops, and we have averaged out. So that is where Dr. Smash gets the time from, as to how long it normally takes about 5 different strip and assembles, strippers to actually do a job and put an average in. So that is where Dr. Smash gets it from. It then takes your hourly rate and it then works out what the money actually is. So that is where it gets its figures from. So if you decide that the left front fender is not giving you sufficient money, you want more every time, just go into it and then change that to what you want it to actually now be. And so that the next time you actually now double click on it, it will actually call up your 2 hours for strip and assemble that you actually asked for. Right, so that is how you can set up your different figures here. Right, I'm not spending too much time actually on how to write a quote because that is where you'll do most of it, is actually in your red and green car. What I will tell you is we have 4 columns for money. You'll see here, you have your price, your panel beating money, your painting money, and your strip and assemble money. The price column is anybody that is going to give you a invoice. So if you are a part, you're buying a part, obviously your supplier is going to give you an invoice, so you put in the price of the part actually into the system. If it's an outside contract, they are going to give you an invoice, so it goes into the price column. If it doesn't, if nobody is giving you an invoice, it is because you are doing the work yourself. And you now have to decide which one of these 3 is actually doing the work. Is it your painter, your strip and assemble, or your panel beaters? And then you put that money into whichever column it is that you now want. Right, so that is where we get our figures from and how it actually works it out. Right, I'm going to go up to this button here, values to use. If I click on this one, it has pulled through our defaults, what we did under our file defaults. earlier, it has now pulled those through onto the system so that our quote will now have those figures actually on it. If we want, we can change that for this particular quote, we want it to be a different labor rate. And what will happen is for this quote and this quote only will, sorry, that's a bit hard, will these rates actually apply. The minute we go in to add a new quote, it will actually bring back whatever our default says. So if you change anything on this screen, you are changing it for only this quote. What we can also do is you can set up your protocol. So let's go to our Avis and say that this was our Avis protocol. Watch my labor rates as I click on Avis. It's all gone down to our 250 because that is what we said Avis was actually allowed, and our markups over here have also changed, and our consumables have actually changed here as well. Right, but we have already got money actually attached to our quote at this point in time. So that is where these two buttons come from. Is your money correct or is your hours correct? So you must now choose how this computer, when you click back onto line items, how is it going to rework out the figures? Is it going to use your hours or is it going to use your money? I think I put in 500 Rand for the bottom one. So we're going to say apply from money values. Right. And our 500 Rand has still stayed there, but it has now changed my hours so that it is correct. Right. Does everybody understand what I've actually just done there? Right. Okay. And these other buttons that you have along the side here is your part price lookup. If you tick this box or use this part price lookup, it will do the same sort of thing for you. Is my left front fender, if I click on my part price lookup, what it's going to do is it's going to look at the last time I bought a fender for a Honda Ballard. It's going to look to see the left front fender. I have never bought one, so would I like to look for a matching price? No, but I'll just say yes, so you can see the screen that comes up. Right, okay, no, it's not going to come up for me. Right, and so I have never bought a left front fender. But if I now type in that I want him to charge 6,000 Rand for that fender, and I now go and I type in my left front fender and I tick this box. Let's try that again. Left front fender and I tick that box. Right, you see how it automatically put in the 6,000 Rand because the last time I quoted on a Honda Ballard, the left front fender, I charged 6,000 Rand for it. So this price button here can be very good for your time wasters, where you know you did a quote on a Honda Ballard yesterday. You don't want to have to actually pick up the phone to phone your suppliers to get prices again. So you can now tick that and it will bring through yesterday's prices. If I, okay, I'm going to go to this one here and I'm going to say part price lookup, because it now should bring up my 6,000 Rand for me. Right, it's now come through. It's told me that on the 14th of April, I was charged 6,000 Rand. So it gives me a date and it's a price. I can either use that part price or I can actually cancel and write in my own figures. Right. Okay. So what else is there to show you on here? I've got lots of left front fingers now. So I want to delete a line. I just use my delete key on the keyboard and it will delete that line for me. So the big thing to actually say is if you are going to go in and you're wanting to change that word lock to something else, do not use your delete key because it would delete the entire line. Rather, just use your backspace and then type in whatever it is that you want. I'm going to put back lock. Right. If you are wanting to actually add in lines, I want a line to come above the word bonnet. I put my mouse by bonnet and then I press on my insert key. So my insert key, and it will now put a line in above my bonnet. So I'm in the dark, I can't see my insert key. Right. Okay. All right. But yes, what it will do is your insert key will put in a line above where your mouse actually is at that time. Right. So we've done part price lookups. Retail is if the store was 100 Rand, I put in the cost price of it. I click on my retail button. All right. At the moment, it is my net price. I want to actually mark it up. It's been told, your protocol says that it must be 25%. So I can say yes, or you can go in and set your own percentage, but I just click on yes. And it will mark it up to your 125 Rand. Right. Sorry, the version I am using has not been tested. And that would definitely have been sorted out. So, Mike, I hope you made a note. Get that corrected.
Sorry, I didn't actually see what happened there.
When I click on my retail, I clicked on yes, it actually cleared the line instead of actually putting in the figure.
So okay, I will have a look and see why I did that.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, it will actually work on the retail button. Right. Okay, your stock button, what does your stock button do? This stock button goes to what we call stock on hand. And stock on hand is you took off a bonnet off of a car, you put it into your storeroom because it is repairable. It's just that the car that you took it off of was less than 6 months old, so you had to buy a new part, you had no choice. So you've now put this repairable bonnet actually into your stock. You can now put it onto this list and the computer would now call up. It's only looking for things for our Honda. So I can take it off, see if there's actually anything actually in here. I don't think we have got anything. Yeah, no, we haven't got any unsold stock at this point. But you can actually now put it on and any parts that you have will actually be able to come up here so that you can see that, hang on a moment, I have a bonnet actually in my storeroom already. I don't need to order a new one. Let's see if this customer is willing to actually have a second-hand part, and you can now make an informed decision as to what you're wanting to do with this quote. So that is what our stock button is actually all about. Right, but we will be going through stock when we do the stores, because it falls in under our stores division. under our stock on hand control. That is where we would do it there. So when we do stores, we will be going through that in more detail. But for now, all you need to do is, that is where you would look it up, and it looks for your Honda Ballard. Right. Okay, what else do we need to do? Photos. And photos for this particular quote, we want to view all the photos attached to a quote. Right, this is our list. When we go to automatically add, it is looking for our registration number that we've actually had on the system. Do we want to manually select? So we say yes. All right, it goes and it looks for where your photos normally are stored. So let's go to my pictures, and I'm now going to choose a whole load of pictures. And yeah, and I click on open. So it will now put all of our pictures, all of our photos for this particular quote number actually against this quote. If I highlight any one of these, you will see that the photo actually changes to what it should be. Right. But on our photos folder, it doesn't have to be a JPEG. It can be a PDF, it can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be a Word document, it can be a video. So you can put your photos, doesn't have to be a photo, against this. So if you want to see your original Autodex, you can attach the original Autodex to here as well, so that if you at any stage you're wanting to see it, you just highlight that one, double click on it, and it will now open it up properly for you so that you can now read it. So that it just helps you, so it takes a while to do so, so I'm just closing it down. So it just helps you to keep all your paperwork for that particular quote actually all together. So that's what your photos is actually all about. All right. If you are wanting to attach some of these photos, you highlight the photo, you do a right click, and it now comes up as yes. Highlight, highlight, and right click. Highlight and right click, and you choose what you actually want. I'm going to add a text line, and I'm now wanting to print the photos. Right, I want 6 on a page, and I can now write whatever I want underneath this quote. You don't have to write if you don't want to. Right, and it will now print out those 6 photos, but we've only chosen 4, actually onto a page. And you'll see that when I go in, there is the writing actually underneath it that describes that one. And if you haven't put anything underneath it, it comes up as blank. Right, so I can make this as a PDF file so that I can actually email it off to the insurance company, and I click on my print. Right, so that's what you can do for your photos. Let's go back to our line items. No, I'm going to go to utilities now. Right, with utilities, utilities are comments and notes. A lot of the time, what happens in panel shops is your quoter makes promises to the customer, and it says to them, well, it could be anything. The customer could have told you something, and you have to try and remember it. And 2 weeks later, when the customer comes back in again, you have forgotten what it actually was that they told you. So this is where this utilities actually comes in, where you can go in and actually add on your information. You have 3 different types of comments. You can have one that prints on the quote and on the job card. So it will print up on the quote, it will print on the job card. So that will be things like, I'm not happy with the suspension, as it says. And so you want your assessor, you want your customer, you want the workshop, everybody to know that you are not happy with the suspension. Please can somebody have a look at it? So that's the one comment. You can have one which is actually only written up on the job card only. Those are for the promises that you make to the customer. If you give us the job, I see that your boot has actually got a ding in it. So let me actually get them to fix that ding for you, but we will do that as a freebie for you because you've given us the work. So you would click it. You don't want it to come up onto the quote. You definitely don't want the assessor to actually see that that's what you're doing. And but you do want your workshops to know that they must actually fix that boot ding at the same time. So you highlight that one and you say at the bottom here, boot ding to be repaired. Obviously, you would give them a lot more information than that, but you would now click on your OK button and it's now put it actually onto the system that there is a boot ding that needs to be repaired. Now, if the customer turned to you and said, you know, how long I'm going to Joburg in a couple of days or in a month's time, and I need to actually have my car. It has to be finished by then. So you can now give at the bottom here your promise. We said we would try because we very seldom promise customers anything. And they say that they want it to be done by the 30th. They want it and they need it back by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Right, so we're now going to write a comment on here. Customer going to Joburg needs. Right, click on your OK button. Right, so you've now put in those things onto the system. You will see that there is no delete button. So you cannot delete your notes. So the only thing you can do is you can stop it from printing anywhere. So you would highlight it and just click on your stop printing and it now will stop it from printing where it's supposed to be. But at the same time, it is still on the quote so that you can go back to it if you ever needed to and have a look to see who made the notes actually in the first place. Right. Calculate time required. If I click on this, this actually looks at the whole quote and basically gives an idea as to what it thinks. It looks at the amount of hours. And remember our defaults where we said that for every hour, 60% went to panel beating and so forth and so forth. That is where it uses all of that. And it has actually added an extra day onto our quote because my defaults had said that I must add one more day onto the list so that if somebody asks me, I can give myself a day's grace because that should have been 7 days, but it's now given me 8 days. All right. Also this one here, if you have the time and you are wanting to get part prices for a customer, you can now go and select your supplier as to who it actually is. I'm just going to select anybody. I print my selected list. These are all the parts that require prices. I can then say, print my parts specs. Here again, as a PDF, I can email it so that I can email off a part price request to ABC Motors, and they will then fill in the details and email it back to us. They have the chassis number, they have the type of car, they have the blue, they have all of that, everything that they actually require actually on it. Right, so that's your part price request. Right, let's close that back down. Okay, so line items. I think majority of the people that I've seen actually know how to do quoting. So I don't really have to go through much more. But on your cut and mold, if you're wanting cut and mold to come up, you type in your C and under your code here, and it now comes up as cut and weld. If you're wanting your frame and chassis to come up as a separate line, as you've got down at the bottom here, your code will be F. No, sorry. Let's find out what is my code. Right, I do my funny, and it is your framework. Align, chassis, and if I put in my
Is it not because you've got cut and weld sitting in there that it's reading it differently?
it could be. Let me try another line. I think because I know I definitely have a frame method.
Is it not maybe under the code for panel beating then?
But that's what I'm saying, is that there is a method for frame, and it's not on this one. So the data has been changed on this. And so, yeah, but it should definitely be a method for frame, and that will actually bring up your cut and mold. I mean, your frame and chassis work will come up here. All right. So sorry about that, but it's the data that is actually changed. All right. So, but that is how you would do it, is you put in your frame on your method, and then you put your panel beating under here. Right. If you're wanting your mechanical to come up, you go to your strip and assemble, and you type in under your code, you type in your M, and you now write in your 500 Rand for that one, and your mechanical actually now comes up. So that is where you can get your mechanical to actually come up as a separate thing on your quote. Right. And on your paintwork, if you look at it and your figure says 30,000, then your paintwork, you now want it to be 25,000. You just type in your 25,000. And what will happen is when you look at your paint, as I press my enter, it now rearranges those so that it adds up to 25,000. Right. And
just a key note on that. When you change it to 25,000, or if you've changed your hours, it keeps everything in the same ratio as it was before. So if that bonnet was 10% of your paint money, it will still be 10% of whatever your new figure is. So that will always stay in alignment with everything else. It's not going to suddenly add it all to one line. It will make sure everything stays in the same ratio.
right. Okay. Yeah. So that's basically it. It's on your quoting side of things. One of the questions that we have is for part price lookup, or the markup value, is if I had a alternate part, left front door, and I did my retail, retail, but it didn't work just now. But yeah, let's go to our net. It will now says that it's an alternate part, and it is going to mark it up by what the alternate people said that the markup should be. So depending on what your method actually is, as to what markup it's actually going to use. Right, so you have your alternate, you have your U for used, and then you can have your triple X's for your other ones, or your replace is actually all your OEM parts. Right, so hopefully that actually answered those questions. Does anybody else have anything else about quoting at this point?
Everyone's been quite quiet for this session, so hopefully we'll get some questions at the end.
Yeah.
If they're not going to answer now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think going through to a job card is actually going to take too long because this has taken me an hour and a half just to go through a quote. So I'm going to save this quote and then we will go through and start doing some customer care and monitor actually on this. Right. So there are two different things. There's the save button and the commit button. A save button means that you're going to be coming back and finishing this quote off at a later stage. Your commit button means I am happy with this quote and I am going to commit my company to doing this job at this price. Right, so I'm just going to say save. I just want to show you what happens. Right, so our quote that we have just done for our Borman still comes up and says making a quote, which means I have not finished making the actual quote. I'm going to be coming back to it at a later stage. Now this one above, your ship search, is an actually agreed cost. That one has already been committed. The reason we actually do this committing of it is over on the side here. If I now highlighted our search dogs one, you will see that I can go back and I will always be able to view my original, and I can now go in and do my agreed cost of repairs. The reason we do this is when the man walks in off the street, you have given him a quote because you don't know his insurance company or anything like that. And then the assessor comes in and you now do the assessor's changes. If you do the assessor's changes under the agreed cost, you will always end up with 3 quotes actually on the system. Your original as to what you did when you first came in, then what the assessor actually said that you must do, and then your third quote will be what did you actually end up doing to the specific job. So you end up with the 3. So if there was ever any comeback and the customer turned around and said, oh, but you, on your quote, you said you were going to fix the left front fender for me. And you can say, yes, on my original quote, I said that. And you can show them a copy of the original quote. But the assessor took out the left front fender. So please go and moan at the assessor, not at me. Because I quoted on the originally, and this is what the assessor did. So that you have got both quotes actually on the system, because if the assessor turns around and says, oh, but you never quoted on it, you can show them that, yes, he did, because it was actually on my original quote. So that is why we always say that you should commit your original quotes, and then you have your agreed cost of repairs, and then you have your job card when it's actually been made into a job card itself. Right, okay, so customer care now. If I click on this, customer care, show follow-up colors, it comes up in red, green, and yellow. Our favorite colors in Dr. Smash. Red always means there's a major problem, yellow is a minor problem, and green is a good problem. Right, so our one is we have not actually done anything about it. So there's a major problem because nobody has actually done anything about our customer follow-up. If I now go to my quote follow-up on this, let's go to Borman, quote follow-up. Right. The quote follow-up is not being done, it is in red. So I'm now going to say it. I am doing it, and I have note as to exactly what you have actually done to it, and you click on your make button. It will now write up your notes for it and tells you who did it, what date and time. It's actually all being done on. A customer has been given a copy of the quote. Right, and I can actually set a reminder for myself as well. So I'm going to set it for today at 2:38. And okay, so I can now save the record. Right, it's actually come up and already given me my reminder. I don't think I typed in 38. I must have typed in 35. Sorry about that. Missed the wrong button. All right. So I can now close that. Have you done it? Yes, I have. And it now disappears off of that list. So you can set yourself reminders for it as well. Right. And you'll now see that my Borman should turn yellow because I have now started on that actual quote itself. All right. Yeah, so that's your quote follow-up. There's lots of different things that you can actually do to it. You can put in your insurance companies, who the assessor is actually with. You can actually even go to here and you can do your customer care, which is sending an SMS. So let's actually go and say automate. We look at a message, quotation, thank you. Double click on that. It now writes up your SMS that you actually want. All right, I'm going to send it to that contact number, and I now just click on send the SMS message now, and the SMS will actually go out. Right. Unfortunately, I can't do this. Actually click on the actual send button at this point, because my customer care is actually for a client, and I don't want to use up his credits. But what would happen is you would actually have your care messages sent. You would actually have all of your care messages, all your SMSs that you have sent coming up here, and they will tell you exactly what it is that you've sent to them so that you can keep track of every single SMS. The SMSs don't have to be SMSs. They can actually be emails as well, because if you had an email address, whatever you have written in here will actually be able to go off as an email at the same time. Right, so there's that you can actually do as well. If you don't want to go through that particular screen, you can just highlight and go straight to customer care here, and you can now do your messages. If you are, I went to automate, but you can write up your own messages, whatever it is that you want. The only thing is you can't do enter key when you do it, and you can't make spaces. So it does come out as one big long sentence, so that's the way that you need to do it. And you then just click on send the SMS message now, and it will send it off. Our check button, make sure that the message is not longer than 160 characters in length, because that is all that it can actually send at a time. All right, so that's your customer care. So customer care is actually quite simple to do, but it is literally you're sending SMSs. So what I'm wanting to do at this point is our Borman has now bought his car in, because the assessor is now coming in to assess the vehicle for us. So I'm going to go to my admin and my check-in. Right. This is a list of all the cars that are on our shop floor that we know about. So I'm now wanting to add a new record. I can go and look for my quote number. All right, so I go to the end. There's my foreman, double click. If I didn't have a quote number and I left that blank, so if it's left blank, a new quote will actually be started for this particular vehicle that has now come on. So it will actually open up and it will now ask you for details as to what the car is and all the rest of it, because it doesn't know. But because I have put in a quote number, it now knows the details. So I can save my check-in details. It's now put our Borman actually onto the system, so I can close the window. If I go up to my satellite dish, which is my monitor, the monitor is actually your workshop control board, and it keeps control over all the vehicles that you have on your shop floor. The vehicles could be in storage, actually in work, waiting to be assessed, waiting to be quoted on, whatever the different reasons. So here it is here, and there's my Borman. It's in light blue because it is still, I have not committed my quote as yet. These dark blue ones are waiting to be assessed, and then these ones here are actually my jobs that I am actually physically working on. All right. So that is how you can actually add vehicles onto your monitor. The other way of actually adding vehicles onto your monitor is by clicking on when you do a quick job, when you make your quote actually into a job card, it automatically will put it onto here if it is not already on this list. All right, if it is already on this list, it will just update the details actually against it. Right, so as I'm going along, as I'm highlighting different ones, you'll see my phone numbers keep changing, so that if I need to, I want to phone Governor, his phone number is actually on the screen, I can phone him straight away and talk to him about his vehicle. Also, you can't see it because my screen's not long enough, but I have the go to customer care, so I can highlight Governor, I can go to customer care and send Mr. Governor a message or an SMS straight away on the system. Okay, so what does this monitor actually tell us? As I said, the different colors show you different things, but then these are your vehicles that you're actually busy working on. You have your hammer as to what department the car is actually in. And then you have your faces on the side here in different columns as to what is actually going on with it. Right, so let's actually have a look at our Governor and see what's happening with Governor at this point in time. If I have a look and I see under my workshop face, he is a red face. The red face, remember when we did default right at the beginning, it said to you that if it was asking about the yellow face. So if it was supposed to have been out of strip and assemble at 9 o'clock, and it is now 1 minute past 9, your workshop face will now turn yellow because it is now late. Then depending on what your defaults say as to whether it is 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever your time limit is that you put, if it was for 1 hour, when it gets to 1 minute past 10, it turns red because it is now needs action to be made against it. And that is where your workshop face will now turn red. Right. So you can see straight away your scheduling that you do. When I make a job card, you will see that it comes up and asks me what times it should be out of each department. And that is where it actually works out the schedule for it. Right. Your admin Your admin face is, I have a yellow face for governor, which means minor paperwork has not actually been done. But if I go to view the admin details on our governor, it tells me my security checklist has not been done, and I haven't entered in who actually told me what my details actually are. But all my extras have been authorized. I have a claim number. All of that has actually been done. So as you are doing your work throughout the Dr. Smash program, it is automatically updating this to say whether you have actually done the jobs that you're supposed to be doing, and it comes up with the answers on here as to what, if it's been done or not. Then we have our spares space. If you have parts that need to be bought for this particular job, at the beginning of the job, your faces will be red because it means that parts have not been bought. If it is yellow, it means that you have ordered the parts, but they have not yet arrived. And then if they are green, it means that all the parts have been ordered and are actually on your shop floor. You have all the parts with you. So that is telling you about your spares. Then the very first column is your spreadsheet column. That is your final repair calculation. If it is red, nobody has even attempted to look at the final repair calculation as yet. If it is yellow, they have started working on it. And then if it is green, it means it has now been committed and finished and therefore invoiced out. So you can now see what is actually going on with your final repair calculations as well actually on the system. So your monitor your monitor control board tells you exactly what is happening on the shop floor. And if you are keeping it up to date, your receptionist should be able to field majority of the calls that actually come through and saves your workshop foreman from having to actually run around trying to find out what's going on, because everything should be on here. If they have all green faces all the way along, she knows that it's going to be finished on time. If she needs to know what that time actually is, so if it stops rolling, I will find it. Right, there's our governor. I can now go to the schedule, the selected job, and it will now come up and it will tell me when this car is supposed to be finished and when it is not supposed to be finished. So, and here again, it's not pulling through my information.
No, all that's happened there actually is the client hasn't set up their scheduling. They don't want it to automatically schedule, so it's not pulling any information. If you set your due date there, because they obviously haven't set a due date, and then just click auto schedule, it will write that all out for you. So you've got to put a due time in. Sorry, 1400, perfect. And now say auto schedule. It'll now read the quote and work out what needs to be done there. Supposed to, waiting for it to catch up. Yeah, it's supposed to do all that. So I've got quite a delay on my side. I can't see what it's doing.
Right. Okay, so you can see that you can actually see the schedule. It's supposed to be coming up, but as I said, I'm using a test package. Not a good idea, I suppose, when I'm training. Right, but you have the facilities. You can see what is actually going on. If you need to, you can go and view the selected job at the same time. And you can go into this actual job and it's all there. You can actually, this one here, user notes on 2. If you write in a message or a note, that will actually come up onto the reports that you have for your monitor. All right. So if you now, sorry, what I should have done, sorry. If I go into my governor again, I can go to my spare summary. Right, these my parts that I actually needed to buy for it, and what is actually going on. So it's actually sorted itself out there. Right, so you can see the receptionist can find out exactly what's going on and be able to answer all of the questions from there. Right. Right. Also, what have we got? These ones here are your mechanical department. That is what the M stands for. So you have now put them into the mechanical department. And then these ones down here are your artwork. The car is actually not on your shop floor. It is actually artwork. So you need to set up where it's actually gone. And that's where you can go to your edit, the artwork details. Right, I want to do normal, right, and it's going out today, but when is it due back in? You put in it's due back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And then of course, 1 minute past 10, it will actually now start coming up in its different colors, telling you that it's late coming back from Autoglass. Right, so that is how you can set up your artwork as well, and it will now keep track of your times and things like that for you as well. So that is what your monitor is actually all about. Now, you're probably wanting to know, how do I move my departments? And the way that I normally tell people what they should actually do is, if they go down to your print reports, if they go to vehicle position report, and they print this selected report, what it will do is it will give them a list of all the reports that are actually on the monitor and what department they are in at this point in time. So first thing in the morning, you print out this report, you give it to somebody, and they walk around your workshop and now write in what department that the car is actually now in, and then they come back and they will give that report to whoever it is that now needs to do it. And so we now go to, when we double click, we want to move a department, right? So Bezuidenhout, we're now wanting to go to panel beating. All right, do we want to send an SMS? No, we don't. Right, McKees, I can move it to the file shop. If I want to send an SMS, I can just say yes. Right, it writes it all up. Wanting to move departments in department. Right, is now in our department that we actually put it into, and it will go through and do that for you. Right, so that is how you actually go through and move your departments. You literally are just double clicking on them and moving them to whatever department it is that you want. Right. So once you have actually now done that, and you have sent out all of your SMSs at the same time, you should, in theory, not get very many clients actually phoning you to find out what's going on about their car, because you have actually done all of your updates. Right, so once you have actually moved all of your vehicles, you can then go back to your reports, and you go to your overview report, and I want a full overview. Right, the full overview includes all of the ones that are waiting to have a quote done and are waiting for assessment. If I've only chosen workshop, it would only have brought through these ones at the bottom here, because these are the ones that are actually in my workshop at this point in time. It now goes through and it will show you all your different cars, and it shows you what departments they actually are in, when they and whether they are overdue or not, actually on the system here as well. And I think my one that I did, there's my one where I've made notes against it, and there's my note that has actually come up. So you can keep track, like waiting spares or whatever it actually is, you can put that actually on here, so that everyone can see what's actually going on. So it gives you an overview as to what's going on on that system. And then these are all the cars that are booked in. You book them in, they're not physically in your shop floor, but you're busy buying spares and things like that for them at this point. Those would be these pink ones down at the bottom here. These are all your booked in cards. And here you would have your spares monitor screen coming up as well, telling you whether they should be red, green, or yellow, as to what's happening with those particular parts. So when you see that all the parts are actually here, are now in your shop floor, your receptionist can now go through and actually order them and phone the client and say, please, can you bring your car in on Monday? We've got all of your spares waiting for you. We can now work on your car itself. Right. Do we have any questions at this point on the monitor?
Good day, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this webinar today. As you can tell, these videos have been uploaded. They are on YouTube and on our website, drsmash.co.za. Under the notice board, you will find some posts with all our training sessions placed there. We will be having another training session tomorrow on April the 15th, one at 10 a.m. and one at 1 p.m. If you're interested in joining us for those, please just keep an eye out for the posts on our website and on our Facebook pages. If you'd like to get the direct email, you can drop me an email on sales@drsmash, or you can send it to training@drsmash.co.za. Either way, we'll put you onto the mailing list and you'll get a direct email with the link. If you're coming to us after that period, same story, just go through to our notice board on drsmash.co.za/notice board. You'll find the posts there, or join us on our YouTube channel or Facebook pages, and you will find all this information available. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Thank you.